So our next presentation is another transformation story in an industry where you might sometimes expect more technology and such, but it's quite unique. It's unique in the way that the company has transformed internally, but also externally, really looking at the internal drivers and the customer experience at the same time. And it's also a wonderful example, and the recipes that are going to be shared with you are probably applicable to most of the industries. So, to discover more about how BMO has transformed, please join me in welcoming on stage Michel Ares, CEO of BMO. Michel, thank you.
Well, good morning, everyone. It's a real pleasure to be here with you today. The focus of my presentation today is to describe the technology-enabled transformation that we've followed at BMO over the past 8 years. And having been a CIO in 2 other industries, I do believe that the approach that we use does apply not only to other banks, other financial services companies, but across industries. First, I'd like to introduce the bank, and then also describe the context within which we operated over the past 8 years. We'll let everyone read this in 10 seconds or less. And then off to BMO. BMO is the 8th largest bank in North America. It does have a diversified business mix. We operate in retail banking, wealth management, asset management, commercial, corporate banking, as well as capital markets, trading products, investment corporate banking. Our footprint, Canada, United States, and select locations internationally. The assets of the bank, roughly $750 billion, about 45,000 employees, 1,500 branches. The bank has performed well financially over the past number of years. You can see in the top left the dividends declared by the bank and a very good track record. Net revenue at $20.7 billion last year, $5.5 billion of net income, and 15.5% 5-year annual total shareholder return. If we look at the footprint of the bank, you can see our footprint in Canada is broad, over 8 million customers. We span, obviously, all of the provinces. We also have strong presence in the United States. The focus of the bank in the US is mostly in the Midwest, so we have strong presence in the Midwest. We also have a number of locations internationally that help us also serve our clients in North America more effectively, so strategic locations both in Europe and in Asia. Now let's step back and look at the time frame, and I think it's very helpful to look at this as context for how the environment evolved over that time frame. We started the journey in 2010, but it's really important to remember that 3 years earlier, 2007, the iPhone was introduced, and it was the beginning of the financial crisis, and those 2 events would have a profound impact on the business of banking. What also happened is, over that time frame, Moore's Law and Nielsen's Law continued to be at work, which means that they drove profound change in computational and capabilities and bandwidth, which basically fueled the innovation that we all saw, whether it's the emergence of social media, search, cloud computing, and so on. If we look at specific segments like mobile, social, and payments, I'll just focus on payments for a second. I think one of the most stunning developments is what happened in China with WeChat and Alipay and the transformation of the financial systems in China to become virtually a cashless society over the last few years. Customer expectations changed profoundly. And they are shaped by what consumers experience every day with big technology companies. So everything from voice, integration with messaging, the ability to do everything with mobile, clearly. The competitive landscape changed over that time frame as well. We have billions of dollars that were spent on fintech, and it continues to be so. Big tech started also to play a role in the financial services value chain, with Apple, obviously, and Amazon beginning to play a role there. Analytics and AI, profound change, and then platforms and methods and the skills to compete. So let's look at the journey but maybe one thing is, as we step back from this, I think 2 points. One is what's going to happen in the next 10 years, I think will be very significant compared to what we experienced. And 2, the speed at which we have to drive the change has to be far greater. Our strategic objectives were very clear. We wanted to build a more intuitive, one bank experience, lead in digital, punch above our weight because we're not the largest bank, enable innovation with the partner ecosystem, digitize the bank, transform the work in the company with analytics, digitize and remove all of the paper, and then speed to market was really, really critical. We had to be able to deliver solutions more quickly. The journey essentially had 7 planes of transformation that worked in parallel: architecture, acquisition integration, functional capabilities, core banking and digitization, the IT transformation, which is essential as you transform the business, data and analytics, and then digital and customer journeys. If we go through it, these are pages from the strategic plan in 2010, and the simple point from this page is that the need to identify a strategic vector for change early on and stay the course. We've been on this course for 8 years, and we have built the smart core and evolved it over that time frame, and that's really, really hard, and that is how you build a durable asset that's going to transform the enterprise. The smart core is essentially the nervous system of the enterprise. It's a durable asset. It has data, business rules, services, and it's both the central nervous system, which is the brain and the spinal cord, but also the peripheral nervous system, which is the nerves and the ability to sense what happens across the enterprise and even externally. And so the design of the architecture looks like this, where the smart core is at the center. The channels are abstracted from the core banking systems and the functional systems, and the infrastructure is also connected. So it is really the centerpiece of the enterprise, and it has 2 core components to it. The first part is connector grid and services. What does that mean? It allows us to connect all of the 1,000+ systems that we have in the bank using an enterprise service bus, and it allows us to actually take pieces of functionality and business rules and put them in the core as opposed to have them in all of these distributed applications. When we do that, business rules, pieces of functionality get instantiated in the core, reused across the board so that we can be faster to market, build at a higher level, and also we abstract the channels, create the channel services, which basically allow us to build the channel applications much more quickly with a single code base, and then basically evolve the channels at a much faster rate. On the left here, you see the starting point, which was monolithic applications, suboptimal integration, and extensive duplication in the code. On the right, you see the service-oriented architecture and the idea that you have channel services, business services, smart core services, and then the elimination of significant duplication across the enterprise. So we have a short video that I'd like to ask the team to run here that tells a little bit about our journey with this transformation.
At BMO, we're not waiting for things to change. For 5 years, we've been investing in transformative technology that's reshaping our bank. Meet the BMO Smart Core. It started in 2010 with an end-to-end assessment of over 50 years worth of incremental changes and legacy systems that were holding us back. Before Smart Core, every new channel had to connect directly with the product applications supporting every aspect of a customer's relationship with us. These channel and product apps often spoke different languages that forced us to build one-off software programs just so they could work together. We needed a system to meet a clear set of goals: more personalized, intuitive applications built to respond in the moment, a more unified experience across all channels, products, services, and geographies, more customer-specific solutions delivered to market at greater speed and lower cost, enhanced risk management, and the digitization of business processes to further boost productivity. As challenges posed by regulatory reporting requirements grew, we also needed powerful systems to capture data from across the enterprise, quickly, accurately, and cost-effectively. The Smart Core is BMO's solution. It's a sophisticated connector grid integrating more than 1,400 applications across the bank. with over 1,000 software-based services that can be used to build applications quickly and easily. Whatever the future brings, we're ready. The SmartCore analyzes customer transactions, enabling real-time advice through in-branch conversation queues and helpful messages on smartphones. The SmartCore improves processes with its single-source electronic customer information file and shared company-wide book of record. Its information delivery platform is our bank-wide data center, enabling detailed analytics of everything from risk to sales and marketing. It's more accurate, more insightful, and faster. The SmartCore helps us live our brand. We are human when we understand our customers. We're intuitive when we offer the right solution at the right time. And we're one bank when we can approach customers consistently across all of our channels and businesses. The technology architecture we've built has moved us right where we want to be competitively as we continue to reimagine the customer experience. We're a more personal bank for a digital world.
And so we created this video in 2015, and it was just the point where we were really gaining momentum with the whole organization within technology, working with the businesses. We had a number of proof points, but we needed the entire company to understand what was going on. And at the time, if you remember, 15 was fintech, and everyone was interested in what was happening there. So we really used this video to get everyone on the business side in technology on board with the approach so that we could actually scale it. We're going to shift now to the analytics component of the SmartCore, and very simply, we had three imperatives to pursue our data and analytics strategy. Number one, regulatory compliance. And after the financial crisis, the complexity of the regulatory requirements, if you look at CCAR in the US, which is capital requirements, liquidity requirements, anti-money laundering requirements, they have one thing in common. All of those regulatory requirements require incredibly deep understanding of the transactions and the ability to pivot the information in multiple ways. So the data governance and the data aggregation are pivotal. We also wanted to meet rising customer expectations, and on the horizon, we were seeing new potential entrants that had this as a core competency, and we knew we needed that to compete. And so our journey, you can see the key steps. 14 was really about building the foundation. 15, the regulatory scale-up, strong focus on anti-money laundering with other areas of focus. Early pivot to revenue and costs in 16, and 18, we are now well into the acceleration phase, moving to more advanced scenarios, including graph analytics, machine learnings, robotic process automation, and so on. But what I would submit is that the hard work that we did in building the foundation of the house was really, really critical, and it pays, and it will pay continued dividends over time because we have a very solid foundation. So here are the different components of what is in the data and analytics component of the SmartCore itself. Data aggregation, reference data, metadata hub analytics. I don't have enough time to walk you through every component, but the simple point I'm going to make is that analytics, I always tell my team, is about the details, and the details do matter. And it's not enough to go and get a great Hadoop platform. It's not enough to go get access to the latest machine learning library, and it's not enough to build just a nice dashboard. All of the pieces have to work together with tremendous precision. So the data aggregation, you can see large-scale data storage, high-performance computing. The data loaders, we could talk about data loaders for 20 minutes. We could talk about curated data sets for 20 minutes. We could talk about the importance of reference data, so important. Data lineage, data glossaries, and so on and so forth. But once all these pieces are in place, we actually have a platform to grow. I'm going to shift to the next page, which talks about the foundation of the entire analytics strategy, which is data governance. We spent a lot of time reflecting on this and how we would implement it. And instead of creating a side organization, which is, oh, well, here's the group that's going to govern the data, our decision was to actually embed it in the way the business is run. So the data stewards, stakeholders, owners, and custodians are all business leaders. And the reason that's important is that it makes them understand the data and makes them own the data, which is probably the most important thing we could do. And now that model is working at scale and the data continues to evolve. And you can see here, we have about 160 book of record systems on the left. You can see the progression from 15 to 18. We're there. And they are loaded consistently every day, and we're basically compressing the cycle time with which the data is loaded, depending on the use case. But that is the key. How you load the data from all of the book of record systems, and specifically how you eliminate duplication in all the data loaders to make sure that you have integrity in that data, is pivotal. Because when we started, we had extracts from these systems, in some cases, 5, 6, 7 different ways of extracting the data, and that was from history. You can't have that if you're going to have one version of the truth. And you can see on the right, number of access requests, number of projects using IDP, and you can see that the impact spans everything from regulatory compliance, number of acronyms here from the banking regulatory world, but these are really core regulatory requirements in Canada and the United States and internationally that have to be met. And the IDP has been central to all of that, basically. It's the way we provision the data to actually solve all these problems. And now the shift to growth in analytics and then M&A, really, really a strategic asset when you acquire a company. You can see here, these are circa 2015, the first steps in creating dashboards. And TIBCO, great partner, we use Spotfire. We actually deployed a whole number of dashboards and analytic solutions using Spotfire on top of IDP, and it brought to life the power of the information in all these cases, whether it's regulatory compliance, risk management, whether it's finance, whether it's customer analytics, just understanding your P&L, all of it was basically implemented leveraging the IDP, using this platform to render it. And then other great use cases, acquisition integration. You can see here, we bought GE Transportation Finance, which was a division of General Electric that serves basically the trucking industry. Great business for us, and we integrated it, but the IDP was key. We basically worked with the team there. We said, please submit all of these files in this format. We ingested them in IDP and basically normalized the data to the target state. And in doing so, we were able to get to legal day one very quickly and also have really good understanding of the business we had just acquired and how we can manage it using the standardized way we actually understand the entire bank. Robotics and robotic process automation in AML, I mentioned this. We have a high-risk unit that conducts specialized analysis for certain use cases. We use RPA to basically pull data from multiple systems now, all from IDP, integrate it, process it, and the analyst can work with a much simpler solution. And now, I talked a little bit about the next wave of IDP, which is this year. We are actually implementing a graph model in IDP. And so if you think of, knowledge graph or basically connecting both internal data as well as obviously the external data, being able to pull all these pieces together, it takes the initial implementation, which was based on data appliances and a very rigorous 3-level data aggregation method, so level 1, 2, and 3. I'm not going to get into that, but essentially it worked very, very well, created a solid foundation, but now we're overlaying graph analytics on top of it, and that's going to basically create a whole new set of opportunities for solutions, including machine learning. And so if we step back and look at the whole transformation over 8 years, you look at the solutions that we build at the base here, and it spans everything. The channels, the functions, the products, the processes, the acquisitions. So it's basically everything that we have to deliver for the bank as technology leaders. You can see, the modernization of mobile channel, tablet and online solutions, so everything that's digital banking. We have digital advisors for wealth management. We have some really great work that's ongoing for retail banking right now with mobility, and also the ability to take what was historically a North experience or Canadian experience, a US experience, into a single unified experience and getting us to much more of a horizontal experience in digital for all the segments of the business. Just one thing, we're putting in the bank's new general ledger. I mean, this IDP has been a gift in that because, putting in a general ledger in a bank is fairly complex, and having done the data work beforehand is enormous in terms of the ability to simplify the work that you have to do to put in the ledger. Anyways, I mean, the point that we see on the upper right is that the IDP, or the Smart Core, is not built as a separate standalone project. It is built as we built every technology solution. And that is the method, right? So if we put in a new commercial lending mortgage system, we solve a problem for regulatory compliance. We build a new channel application. It is the way we actually build solutions. And so what happens is that every iteration, the core begins to integrate more powerful capabilities. So you have another connector to a system. You have another 20 or 25 services that are in it. You have a certain set of machine learning libraries that are in it. But all of these capabilities then get reused by the next project. So adherence to the architecture and making sure everyone understands that is really key. And so I would submit, after this journey, my belief is that the core actually combined with what we did with the IT transformation, which is cloud, agile, and DevOps, becomes the platform for innovation. So I didn't give you specific examples of innovation use cases. What I'm suggesting is that the innovation itself is the core platform that you create, and it basically is the fuel for all the future innovation. Without that, when you operate with a company that's got more than 30 years of legacy, it's very difficult because these systems have been built with the technologies that were available at the time, and they're typically siloed based. So once we have that, we introduce cloud, agile, I think we position the company for the future. So a few lessons that we learned, really clear and specific outcomes from the outset. And we talked about building a more intuitive, a more intuitive experience, a one-bank experience. That was really key. Those are guiding principles that actually we use throughout. The right beachhead is key because when we started in 2010, people were going, really, we're going to build this thing? And so it was suspend disbelief for a bit, but you have to get to proof points very quickly, but it has to build the foundation for the entire architecture. And Smart Core is not a project on the side. It is part of every IT project. Focus on enterprise architecture, and then execution is really about the cross-functional partnership and having the right skills. And so that is the extent of my remarks, and thank you very much for listening.